you are gonna see some cool ass shit.
Yeah, you don't want two Flavor Flays.
Heart transplants, brain surgery. I've seen it all.
Dude, that's fucking dope.
Walk up and just get it, whatever it is.
Yeah, brother.
I'm trying not to laugh, bro, but Josh is fucking killing me.
Well, guess what Navy SEALs do, motherfucker? They communicate and they're on the same fucking page.
Whoa.
And we're live. Welcome to the Happy Hoodlums podcast. It's your hosts, Zach Sampson and Kemper Woodruff, which is like a weird order to go in. It's not, it sounds weird in reverse, but here we are. And we have Brett Lowe's, our guest for today, who is one of, I've already said this to these guys, but one of very few people that I've personally invited onto the podcast. So, Brett, thanks for being on. And yeah, bro. The one of the things that I invited you on the podcast for is because you have probably one of the wildest upbringings that I've heard, like a story that I've ever heard in person. And I was like, this has to be told to more than just me. And so I want to start with that, and specifically because like the way that your upbringing was with your dad and your brothers, it was like a whole like community setting where it was like everyone was doing something for each other, right? And it was like not only kind of militant and hoodlum-esque because of the shit that you guys were doing, but it was just like everyone was kind of in service of each other, where like you always like were lending a hand to everybody. And so I kind of wanted to get into that.
Dude, it was I don't know, it was kind of weird because like I thought it was completely normal. So but then like talking to other people, they're like, no, bro, like that's not how it is. But yeah, so I grew up like in the middle of nowhere, like in here in Oregon, and a little town called Duffer. Well, in between Duffer and Ty Valley, they each had like 200 people in them. Yeah, there was like 120 people in my school, like K through 12. It was community. But yeah, it was like we just had that place. Like we didn't grow up like we were poor basically. we were pretty pretty low on the totem pole. But like we always had the like the house at the door was always open. So we would have just random people over like at any given time. There was like 20 kids over at my house. And my old man, he had his own construction business, so we all grew up like framing at like 10 years old. Like that was like normal, like especially being relatively poor. It was like, oh yeah, no, we like on summer times, like we woke up and went to work with our old man. Like that was just what we did. But like yeah, with our door always being open, like we'd come home and there would be like 10, 15 kids like our age just hanging out, like waiting for us to get off work at like, you know, like 10 years old. Yeah.
One of the funniest stories you probably told me so far about your dad was when he pelted your brother in the face with the rotten. Was it a rotten apple or an orange?
I think it was an orange. It was the grossest fruit. Like, dude, they don't have shit like that in South America. Like, it was rancid. So this, in the summer times, my mom would go or come down to Portland to take care of her grandparents. And then my sister would go off and like basically like hang out with her friends for the summer and everything. So it was 4 of us boys and my old man, who was basically a child. Like, it was like just pure chaos. And then you'd have like, yeah, like I was talking about, like all of our buddies over and everything. There would be like 20, 30 people like at any given time throughout the summer. But never a like female like during the summer. So we had this fruit bowl on our counter, and it basically never got taken care of because my mom wasn't there. So we had an orange in our fruit bowl that was like, dude, I shit you not, I don't have anything like around here that was the color of blue of this. Like it was gross. It was one of the nastier fruits I've ever seen. But so my brother, he had like real long hair at the time, and it was always like, I don't know why, but it was the thing to do, is just like fuck with our old man when he got home from like a 16-hour day. Like it was just the thing to do. Like kind of a dick move. But so I had 2 of my brothers were up on the roof of our house, and like you got like the roof of the house like this, and then the front yard's over here, and my brothers were like on this side of the roof, like throwing water balloons at him and shit. And he's just getting pelted, and he's just like, oh. And he just like strolls inside, and he comes back outside, and my brother's like running down the roof of the house, and all you can see of him is like his shoulders up. And he takes this blue orange, and he had a good arm at the time, and he hits him like right side of the face, and it just disintegrated and like glued his hair back and everything. He rolled off. Oh, dude, it was so great. It was a good shot. Like most like NFL quarterbacks couldn't have made that throw. It was pretty impressive. Like, just right in the side of his face and just blew up. It was so gross. Pretty sure he fell off the roof.
Oh fuck!
I might have rolled off the roof into the backyard, but it was a good throw. That was impressive. Dude, that was the thing. We were kind of like terrorists. Like that was like that's just what we did. Like, dude, and it was just pure chaos. Like, any given day, a paintball gun. What's up?
Yeah, that's what happens when you get like young men together. Like we just start looking at each other like, all right, what can we fuck up that's not gonna kill us? Like, and that's kind of like the gauge for acceptability.
And some of the stuff we did should have for sure, but or at least messed up stuff. Like, but it was just like, oh, it was awesome. Like there was never a dull moment. But like any given moment, like a paintball gun war could start in the living room. Like it didn't matter. Like, oh, like that was probably the worst thing my parents ever did was bought paintball guns. Like, oh, dude, holes in the like drywall, like in every room. Like, oh yeah,
dude.
Oh, it was awesome.
One of the things that like got me like the way that you grew up almost reminds me of like the way Kemper grew up. So it's like in two different environments. Like Kemper was in the city, you were in the middle of nowhere, but like it was all just like wild hoodlum type shit. Just like,
oh yeah,
dude, crazy the whole time.
It was the Wild West. There was like little to no rules. Like it was like, yeah, honestly, the only rule that we had was like if we got into a fight, like, and I'm talking like a knockdown, drag out brawl, like as if the other person went down, that was the end of the fight. That was literally the only rule in the entire house. Like didn't matter. You could shoot like fireworks off in the house, like out of the game on, like, but dude, it was that was the other thing.
My mom would have killed me on that note if I was shooting fireworks off in the house. But outside of the house, it was like as long as she didn't really know about it and we didn't do anything where she had to know about it, we were good to go. But it was weird because like growing up, we always wanted to be in the military. Like we watched Rambo way too fucking young, and like that's exactly who I wanted to be. Yeah. And so it was like this unspoken thing of like predator and prey. Like all the other kids in the neighborhood were pretty much prey. It was like me, my brother, and like our two friends, one of which moved away, leaving just Gunner, whose dad was like a Marine. So we were all on the same page of like, all right, like,
yeah, we got this.
Yep.
it was like looking back on it, dude, it was such a blast. But like with like the fireworks thing, like I don't know how, but like somehow at any given point we had like a straight up like pallet of bottle rockets. As like I don't know where they ever came from, like, dude, but like if we got bored, like, oh yeah, bust out the bottle rockets. Like we'd have a bottle rocket like fight in the house, like in the street, like we shoot bottle rockets at our neighbor just being dickheads. Like yeah, it was, oh god, it was like it was a blast. But yeah, like one thing that really stuck out to me from my childhood was like all the fireworks. Like I don't know, we had a ridiculous amount for some reason. And like any summer, one of us was in some kind of cast. Like, oh, it was rough. But one time with the fireworks, like this was fucking hilarious. But so my brother, so we all grew up playing baseball and stuff too. But so my brother slid into second base, snapped his ankle. So he was in like a boot, like all the way up to his knee, or like a legit like cast. And he was like, he was on the couch, like all curled up one weekend or whenever it was, but like he couldn't walk, dude. He was like, he literally had a broken tibia and fibula. Like, yeah, he was in rough shape. But my old man thought he would, and he had this And luckily my mom was gone for this because she would have killed us. But we had like, he had this like quilt on him that was like handmade by my like great grandma or some shit. Like, but he was just laying there, just minding his own business, probably like watching like ESPN or something, you know, like not bothering anybody. And my old man came in and he's like, hey, Cody, hot potato. And he took this like baked potato and shoved a bottle rocket in there and snapped off the stick and lit it. And he just like lobs it, this like cripple laying on the couch and just blows up, dude. There was like baked potato like all over the windows, like, dude, on the TV. Dude, it looked like a legit bomb went off in our living room because it did. And then that quilt that he had on him, like it burnt like a hole in it and everything. So he like got like a hole burnt in our like carpet. And like we tried to hide it, but my mom found it when she did. Yeah. Dude, it was chaos, like between the fireworks and paintball guns and yeah. And we all grew up playing baseball, so anything that we could fit in our hand and throw really hard, like we were probably throwing it at each other.
Yeah, I've definitely thrown Legos at my brother, and I remember we had like the doors that are like hollow in your house, and like my brother had a thing where like he would fuck with me and like until I snapped, and then he'd be like, "Oh," because like I don't know what it was, like anything around me that was a weapon was like coming at you. I
Yeah.
didn't care what it was. And I remember one time I grabbed this brick of Legos and I threw it so fucking hard and at like the craziest, most perfect angle that the corner piece of the like Legos went into the door and like lodged through. And so like the back side of my brother's door and like the front of it all had stickers on it. And my mom didn't know for like years that there were all these holes behind it. Like I tried to battering ram his door down with like a chair one time and just stuck the four legs of the chair through the door. And we were like, "Oh shit, like what do? We gotta hide this." And so we just put stickers over it. So his door had like a ton of stickers.
That was like half the battle was like if we did fuck up, like trying to hide it from our parents. Like that was like the worst part of it. Yeah.
I
remember
almost had like no chance of hiding it from my parents because we had nothing that was on the walls or on our doors. And so my brother one time, same like Kemper just said, pissed me off to a fucking extreme level. And I took this cowboy boot and I threw it at him. And as I threw it, he closed his door. And the tip of the toe stuck perfectly into the door. I'm like, oh fuck. And you know, same with walls and shit. Like I've probably patched like 20 dry hole walls as a kid because I'm like, shit. Okay, well, I can't hide this.
That's pretty dope. But when you put all four legs of a chair through a door and you don't knock the door down, you feel like such a bitch, bro.
Dude, I've used my head. I've used my head on a door before. On one of those hollow core doors, I've ran my face into a door because my brother pissed me off so much.
Dude, that was the thing. Is like we got into so much fights. Like we just used each other's heads. It is, you know, like it was. But there was like there was 4 boys and a girl, so there was 5 of us all together. So it was like back to back. I had like brother, sister, brother, and then a 4-year gap, and then I was obviously the accident. But we were all like still pretty close to the same age, so it was like fair game when we wanted to fuck with each other.
So when you got older, you know, you were in the military, correct?
I was, yeah.
Okay, how did high school go for you and how'd you wind up in the military?
It was kind of like, dude, like knowing me now, I was kind of like a polar opposite in high school. Like there was people that I graduated with that literally never heard me talk. and I had a graduating class of like 18 people.
Fuck.
Like, yeah, tiny town like in Duffer, Oregon. But no, I was just really quiet. I loved being outside. That was the thing is, like we lived down in the middle of nowhere, so there wasn't really a whole lot to do like inside. So our parents would just be like, no, like fuck off, get out of the house, like do something outside. And like, dude, at a really young age, like I'm talking like probably like 6 or 7 years old, like they were just like, oh yeah, like piss off, like go wherever you want, just take the dog. Like as long as you had a dog with you, it was fine. Like that was like, yeah. It was like, oh yeah, fucking take Scotty. I don't give a fuck if you go anywhere. Like that was just the thing. But like, dude, we just spent so much time outside and just like running around and everything. And so we were always in like pretty decent shape and everything. And then as soon as I got into high school, like all my siblings all started graduating and everything. And or like junior high, they all started going off to college. And then my my old man like basically busted his ass to put a few of my siblings through college. Like basically they didn't have to really worry about anything. And then by the time I got in high school, things started like going downhill. Things started like falling apart and everything. And I basically wasn't good enough to get a full ride baseball scholarship. So I was like, oh yeah, no, I guess I'm joining the military. Like out of the blue one day, I was like, oh yeah, fuck it. Like I don't know. It was probably like somebody talking about it at high school or something, like a PT test, and I was like, oh yeah, like I'll do a 2-mile run, just basically see what I got, and I like scored very well and everything. And then I took that like the ASVAB. Everybody took that in high school, but I scored decent on that. And then I took that PT test and I was like, oh yeah, like this is a cakewalk. Like yeah, like I was in shape. Like I was used to running around out in the cold or the hot. Like oh fuck, like that was nothing. So it was just kind of like just a very easy decision, I guess. And it was probably one of the better ones I'd ever made because, like I was saying, we were dirt poor, and yeah, that opened up so many doors for me. And looking back on it, it was probably one of the better decisions I've ever made.
Nice.
That basically ended up in the military, but yeah, high school was like, I don't know, it was different. Like we obviously play sports and everything, baseball, football, like all that and everything, and especially being in a small town, if you didn't play sports, like you were just fucking. And then it was basically just from there.
That's almost
Okay.
how it was like in Cascade Locks. Like Cascade Locks is just like pretty much not necessarily as small, but like extremely small town too. And it's like we didn't have a football team for a long ass time, so it was soccer and basketball, and that was it.
Yeah.
And so you
See,
either like as a high schooler, you either played. I wasn't in high school in Cascade Locks, but my brother was soccer and basketball the whole time until we had a football team for like I want to say maybe a year before they closed down the high school. And it's like, well, damn. All right.
Didn't play sports, like you were fucking weird. Like
yeah.
That was the thing about Duffer. Like Duffer was known for being like tough little corn-fed fuckers. Like
Dude.
We were good at football. Our baseball team, like we could rake and everything, but like football is what Duffer was known for. Like
basketball too. You guys were annoying as fuck to play in basketball. Like full court press. They're every play, full court press on everything. Our coaches in middle school would have to agree with the Duffer coaches to not do full court press because we weren't good enough to get down the fucking court. It was so annoying.
Dude, that was the thing. Like it was crazy because like growing up in high school, the same deal. Like I thought that shit was normal, but like, dude, I grew up with some guys that were fucking athletes. Like they were like legitimately good athletes. Like I grew up with guys and everything. Like I went to high school with guys that went off to play like football at like OSU and U of O and stuff. Like we had a guy play at like Boise State, but it's like, oh yeah, no, I thought they were decent. I didn't know they were that good. But then looking back on it, I was like, oh shit, like those guys were fucking good. Like,
Yeah.
And they went to Duffer Oregon, where there was 18 kids in my class. But it's like they produced some athletes, but probably had something to do with like bucking hay all summer.
Yeah. Farm strong.
I mean, that's basically what you did. Like if you weren't at school, like you were bucking hay, feeding cattle, like hunting, something. Like every summer job.
So I have a question. Did the kids when you were in high school, like did the seniors have full on beards? Because like when I first got to high school, I was like, what the fuck are they feeding these people? Because all of a sudden, like, I'm like, am I supposed to look like that in like 3 years?
There's a grown ass man.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, like dude, I got pictures like of when I was a freshman. I had this mustache. Like, dude, like I had a full on beard like as a freshman, like sophomore, no problem. Yeah.
Bro,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, dude. I used to remember thinking like, this is fucking wild. Like all these dudes are fucking jacked already. I'm like, what were you doing? Like, was I really fucking up like that hard? I thought I was the shit. And then I showed up to high school. I was like,
Yeah.
God.
Dude, that was the thing is like we had some grown ass men in our high school. Like, I mean, I'm sure everybody thinks that, but it's like, fuck, oh dear. Like, we have guys that like the day they graduated, they look the exact same right now and they're 30 years old. Like, they haven't changed a bit. Like, I haven't hit a growth spurt since junior high. I had the same mustache since like I was a freshman, you know? Like, dude, I looked exactly like little less tattoos, but I looked exactly like this in high school.
It doesn't count, dude. You've had pubes since you were like 4. Like, what the fuck? You showed up to high school with that shit.
Yeah, but that's the piss. Like, I'm also balding at like 20, so it's
Yeah, see, that's the weird thing. People get their spurt at a different stage, man.
Yeah, but dude, that's how like most of our high school was. Like, looking back on it, like looking back on our like pictures and shit, like on Facebook and everything, like there was men like in our high school, like bigger than most of the teachers and shit, like just a bunch of corn-fed motherfuckers. Like, yeah,
Dude, I
Yeah,
remember
but
the
when you
one
can
time.
dunk and you're like, oh, sorry.
Well, the one time I
I was
played
just gonna say
football,
when you can dunk, if you got a $25 chain, fucking
bro.
it doesn't even have to be real gold, bro. You're getting so laid. Like
yeah.
it's never been easier.
Oh yeah.
Did we had high school that could dunk? Like, it was yeah. Like, that was the thing is like there everybody was so athletic and like I guess like gifted basically, but like we all thought it was normal. Like, we would have guys like my brother was like 5'7" and he could probably still grab the rim to this day. Like
Fuck.
5'7", scrawny little white guy, and it's like not a whole lot of people could do that, but it's like we thought that shit was normal. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, and then just like the guy, like the football players, like big boys. Like, we had guys over like 300 pounds that could like
What the fuck?
out. Well, I know it was nuts.
300 in high school. That's ridiculous.
Dude,
There
it was like we had quite a few guys that were just like freaks of nature, but we thought it was normal. It was just like just straight up ignorance. And then it's like, oh yeah, they're like starting at like Boise State and shit. It's like,
It's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
Yeah.
Absolute
Yeah.
unit of a human being in high school.
yeah, hey, this guy's from a town of 120 people, and now he's the like starting middle linebacker at U of O and stuff. Yeah,
That's fucking wild, dude.
yeah, dude, it was nuts. But you know, those were the kind of guys I grew up with. Like, yeah, hate to say it, but some kind of like savages.
Yeah.
Just like, dude, we had guys getting like DUIs and shit at like 16. Like,
Fuck.
like, yeah, MIPs.
God damn.
We had guys getting like MIPs at like 13 and stuff. Like, yeah.
Dude, it's crazy though, because like that comes down to like a fucked up sense of like a rite of passage. And some of
Yeah.
it is like what you see from like blue collar
Yeah.
dudes. And the other side of it is like what we saw in movies. Like,
Yeah.
I know really when I think back to like growing up, there was so much shit that got like, I don't like the whole like normalized movement where everyone's like, oh, normalize this. Like,
Yeah.
I think a lot of that is stupid as fuck. But what I can say is like there was some shit that should have been absolutely considered like asinine
Yeah.
that was totally normal in my head.
Dude, I was like 99% of my upbringing. It was like, no, that should be illegal. But it was like, oh, no, that's just what we did. Like, well, actually, looking back on it, it was illegal, but we still did it. And, like,
Yeah.
it was. Yeah. Dude, it was, because I mean, like, so in high school, I lived about 45 minutes or about a little less than an hour away from our school. So, my brother, like when he was in high school, he would drive us, and Duffer, you could have like a what was it, like a farmer's permit, or I think it was like a farmer's permit. So basically, like if you weren't 16, you could still get a permit, but it was to drive feed trucks and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So everybody had one, but so basically, we started driving ourselves to school at like 14 years old, like 14, 15, like. Yeah, junior high, or like about your 8th grade year, you would start like driving to school. Like, that was just what you did. But,
on on the one hand, do you think it makes for like a more productive society? Like,
Dude, I do, because like like us, for example. So when I at the time, so I had the brother that was 4 years older than me. We were the closest because we were the closest in age. And he was in high school when I was in junior high. But like on our way to school, like, yeah, we would stop and feed cows, feed horses and everything, and then maybe go coyote hunting, and then we would go to school, and then we'd come home and do it all over again. Then we'd do it like sports practice, and we would go home. But it's
you were
like,
feeding before school?
yeah, dude, that was the thing. Is like, and that was like the weird thing about where I grew up as opposed to like a big city was, dude, you could have your rifle in the bed of your pickup, like like right in front of school. Like it was just normal. Like everybody did. Like, dude, I would come to school and my buddy's like, oh, look what I shot this morning. And he'd have like a 6-point bull elk, like a legitimate trophy elk in the bed of his like little shitty Toyota. I'm like, cool, dude. Like, oh,
Fuck.
gotta go to class now. Yeah. Like it was just, yeah, dude. And then like everybody had their dogs. Like, yeah, I'd have my dog in the back of my pickup, like when I'd go to school and everything, and just leave him water and then leave the tailgate down. And if he wanted to get out and piss, he'd jump out and piss. But after school, you'd come out and your dog would be in the bed of your pickup and you'd drive home. You know, like it was just, that was the thing to do. But I think as far as like the making it a productive community, like absolutely, because it's like I was 12, 13, my brother was 17, 18, you know, and we were out feeding cows before work. Like,
It's
I don't know.
kind of a double-edged sword because you have like the trial and error aspect of it where it's like either you survive or you fuck somebody up in the process or fuck yourself up. So like
Yeah.
that's like the pro and con. Like you're either going to wind up surviving and being like hyper productive in whatever you do. So let's
Yeah.
just hope that it's like driven to a constructive pathway because you're either incredibly good or you're like the worst fucking kid
Yeah.
turned adult ever. You know what I
Right.
mean?
It's like that was the thing, is like everybody that we grew up with, like that was normal to them. Cause I mean, like they were going through the same struggles that we were and everything. Like they were doing the same shit. Like, yeah, it was like Duffer, we would, so like obviously high schools like shut down for holidays and shit. We would shut down during elk season and during wheat harvest season. So like the high schoolers could go harvest wheat and the high schoolers could go hunt. Like, dude, that was just, that
Fuck.
was the thing. Yeah. Like, yeah, everybody drove wheat truck like during the summer and everybody went elk hunting. That's just what you did. And, but like, I don't remember anybody in high school like not like succeeding or like not doing shit like that. Like if they got up and fed cows before school, like they're they came out just fine. Like nobody got like seriously hurt or like too many owies or that they couldn't like bounce back from. It was just, that was like normal, I guess.
Yeah, because no one's coming to save you, dude.
Yeah,
What the
yeah,
fuck? Early, and people have jobs. Like it's do or die.
yeah. And that was the thing, is like, dude, we were like looking back on it, like I was the same age as my nephews are now, and I was out there like feeding like mean ass like herd bulls that had like are bred to basically fuck shit up in the herd, you know, like keep like wolves and coyotes away from the from the cattle herd and everything. And I was out there like feeding them when I was my nephew's age, and like I look at my nephew and I'm like, fuck no, dude, I wouldn't want you around any of that shit. You would die. like I don't know. We did it. We turned
Yeah,
out all right.
that's what I'm saying. It's an interesting dichotomy how like things tend. So like, there's a lot of people that I follow that are like high up military people. I love their podcasts. That's
Yeah.
what I always wanted to be. And so they said like the commando gene skips a generation, and it's hilarious to look at it in that perspective of like, well, we see who the commando was. Why? Because he ain't out there doing anything close to that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
See, that was the thing, is so my family's from Missouri, or my old man's side of the family's from Missouri. And my old man was just a freak of an athlete too. Like, so he had like newspaper clippings of him being like all metro wide receiver and stuff. And St. Louis has like a scrawny white boy, which is pretty impressive back in the 70s, like in downtown St. Louis, you know? But yeah, he had like scholarships for like track and football and everything. And then but he basically told them to all fuck off because he was going to Vietnam. And then 2 weeks before he graduated high school, they ended the draft for Nam
Oh shit.
because he was dead set on going. Like he basically told all these like big colleges to like basically fuck off. Like he was going to Vietnam. Like that's what he was going to do when he graduated high school. But yeah, so he missed him by like 2 weeks. But then like looking back on that, like who knows where I'd be like if he was taking those scholarships or something, you know.
Yeah.
Dude, it was because we had some pretty good athletes. Like my brother, he like got looked at by the Padres, the one that's closest to my age. My old man like had all those scholarship or like full ride offers. My uncle played for the St. Louis Cardinals. He was a pitcher for them. Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, that's why like we're all like huge St. Louis Cardinal fans. Like, yeah, my uncle pitched for them, and then he actually went to he joined like during the Korean War. Yeah.
So
he was a Marine too for a bit.
Zach also said you wanted to be like a rodeo clown or like a stunt man. Like, how did that come about?
So it's stupidity. I like that in a short answer, but like, that was the thing is like we grew up like working on one of the bigger ranches like in Oregon. Like, so this guy had about 14 square miles. We would feed 13 ton a day or 13 ton of hay a day, like every morning. 13 ton didn't matter. Like, but so I grew up around cows and everything, and my old man was a hell of a welder, and which was kind of a weird deal. So he joined he was an iron worker his entire life, and then he got out of that, and people started hitting him up for like doing random like welding projects and stuff. And then he got into building rodeo arenas, and there was a rodeo arena like right up the road from us, and it was on the property that we'd go feed cows for and everything. So it's like every single morning I'd drive to a rodeo arena and everything, and that's where we would load up the pickup with hay and shit, and we'd go feed the cows and stuff from there. And then like just the guys I grew up around, like some Sam Elliott looking motherfuckers, like hardcore cowboys, like, dude, I mean like legit cowboys, like not the shit you see in like Hollywood. Like these guys were cowboys, like hardcore, like old school Vietnam vets and shit. But like, yeah. But just growing up around that shit, rodeos, it was just like, oh yeah, nope, like, what are you doing this week? I'm like, oh yeah, obviously I'm going to the rodeo. It was just kind of what there was rodeos like all
cowboy, bro. Like, I think the closest thing that was like a cowboy in my family was either my cousin riding a dirt bike or like an Italian dude with a fucking bolo tie, because there's always one of those.
They're like the guys that I like, the old timers that I grew up around, like that basically raised us. Like, dude, I'm talking like they were cowboys. That like I've been around the world, and I've been to like I did that rodeo and shit for years and everything, and I saw a lot of people that thought they were cowboys, but not like the motherfuckers that raised me. Like those guys were cowboys, you know. Like, but it was just kind of like second nature, like going to rodeos on weekends or practice rodeos. And I had a buddy who rode bulls, and I think it was maybe like a sophomore or junior, and he had a shitty Geo Metro, and we were in Duffer, and he's like, oh yeah, like after baseball practice, you want to ride to Madras with me and watch me ride a bull? And I was like, oh yeah, fuck it. And I had my baseball cleats and stuff, like, you know, I just hop in his Geo Metro. We were like, yeah, sophomores, I think, and drive all the way to Madras. It was like 2 hours away. It was like a little practice rodeo. And they're like, oh, you want to help out or anything? Like, you could open gates, like basically stand in there and open the gate so the bulls can spin out, you know, or come out of the chutes and everything for the bull riders. And I was like, oh yeah, fuck it. So I hopped in there and everything, started opening gates, and then like, oh yeah, have you ever like bullfought? Yeah, like rodeo clown basically. Like it's bullfighting and rodeo clown. Like it's basically a rodeo clown without the makeup. But they're like, oh yeah, you ever fought bulls? I'm like, no idea what I'm doing. They're like, oh yeah, here, come on, we'll teach you. And like, dude, after I was like, I just like at a very young age, it was just like, oh, this is fucking awesome. Just the adrenaline and like dude, you turn around and you got like a 2,000-pound animal like breathing, like you can feel his breath on the back of your neck, and like it's hot, and he's just wanting to kill you, dude. It was like rush. Like,
Hold on. This is gonna be really stupid. Rodeo clowns actually have face paint? Like, what the
Well-
fuck is a what?
yeah, like just like a bullfighter, like I don't, yeah, basically just like rodeo clowns. Not all of them wear face paint, but some of them.
Okay, because I'm like, I never put two and two that a rodeo clown was actually like a dude in a rodeo with a painted. What the fuck does he do? It's not the dude riding the bull. Is he just out there with a painted face? Like,
Well, so their job is to basically, once the guy falls off the bull, he makes sure that they don't get pummeled.
all
So
right,
like you'll see the guys like running around and like just get fucked up from the bull, but the bull rider doesn't get fucked up. Like, so that's basically the goal, is like, if somebody's gonna get fucked up, it's gonna be you, not the bull rider. Like, you basically just take one for the team.
well, you better not paint your face if you do that, because that's a double negative. You're
Dude.
fucked.
It was fun. Yeah, just the adrenaline from it. And that was also another thing that probably led me to the army, was like, dude, just a fact of kind of adrenaline junkie. But that was that was probably like my sophomore, junior year, and I was fucking hooked. And then high school, blah blah blah, goes on, and then join the army, and then I go like 4 years, a little over 4 years, without doing anything related to any kind of like animals or cows or bulls or horses or rodeo or anything. And then like I got like a grown up job, and I got out of the army and everything, and then COVID hit, and things came to a screeching halt, and it's like, well, fuck this, like I'm going back to rodeo, like that was fun. And dude, then I was just hooked after that. Like, I traveled like all around the country just rodeoing and everything. I was doing like 18 rodeos a month and shit. Like, yeah,
Fuck.
it was awesome.
A month?
Yeah, dude, it was so much fun. Like, I was single at the time, and like I didn't have a big boy job, so I would know shit. I had my flatbed beat up Dodge. Like, dude, I'd throw my dog in there, and like we'd wake up in fucking New Mexico or something, and I would just just looking at rodeos online, and then I would hit hit guys up, because I knew people like all over the country. So I would hit them up and be like, "Hey, you need another set of hands?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, fuck yeah."
The craziest
I
shit
thought
that you showed me about some of the rodeo clown stuff was the stunt guys. So the dudes who
Yeah.
are running from bulls and doing like backflips over them, which is
Yeah,
absolutely wild. Dude, Kemper, you got to look at some of these videos, because it is fucking insane. These guys will run and then just stop and then turn around and like flip over the bull. It's insane.
Freestyle bullfighting, dude. It was, I made a lot of money doing that. Like, it's dumb. Like, well, I got lucky, but like there's some, like, talk about people that are legitimately great athletes. Like, if you're able to do a backflip over a couple 1,000-pound like pissed off bull, that's pretty intense. That was basically, you have like 45 seconds. You do a bunch, as many, like, you basically like try to juke it out and do tricks around this like fighting bull, like a bull that's literally trying to like trample you. You got like 45 seconds, and if you do good there, you get an extra 15, like as like bonus and everything. But yeah, that's like pretty. If you want to be a rodeo, like a bullfighter.
Do they just fucking pay you in Bud Light or something? What the fuck do you, what's the prerequisite interview to this position?
Well, so those were like a competition, but like at the actual big rodeos, because like I did a couple big rodeos, like where it's an actual rodeo and you're just trying to save the bull rider. But that, I don't even really know how I got into that. You just got to know some people, and I started going to these rodeos and bullshitting with people, and they're like, "Oh yeah, fuck yeah, like come to this practice," and then I'd come to the practice, and they're like, "Oh yeah, like you want to jump in on the next rodeo?" And then it was just boom, 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 like one after another after that. Like once you get your foot in the door in like the rodeo like world, it's so easy. Like, yeah, the sky's the limit, honestly. And I hate to say it, you can make a pretty good living doing that shit. I mean, it's dumb, and it's not even a matter of like if you get hurt, it's when you get hurt. But you can make a pretty good living for yourself. Like, I think, like, well, the year that COVID hit, like I very easily cleared like $100,000, like just rodeoing. Yeah, yeah.
Hell
I mean,
yeah,
I blew it all on Coors Light and Diesel, but whatever.
So, like,
Yeah.
what is okay? So I came across this recently on Instagram, and so have you ever seen this is kind of, I wouldn't say it's rodeo-esque, but it's like farm animal show-esque pig shows. What is the
Yeah,
weirdest thing that you've, because pig shows are so fucking weird. I was watching these
dude.
people, these kids, they're using like these little things to tap the pig around, but they have to maintain eye contact with the judge. And so they're doing
Yeah,
this. They're like looking at the judge
yeah.
while tapping the pig around, and it is the weirdest shit. And so like, is there a weird activity like that that's in rodeos that like you're just like
No,
confused about the rules?
that was like that was basically like the rich kids,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
where their mommy and daddy bought them like an expensive goat that they wanted to like show.
Oh,
That
okay.
basically gets kids. That's like 4-H and like show
Yeah.
animals and everything. Gets kids ready for like auctions and stuff. Because I mean, that's what the point of those is you basically have a bunch of like old ranchers or like farmers sitting around and they spend a ridiculous amount of money on these like pigs that kids raise
Oh shit.
and then they
Okay.
spend around and slaughter them. But yeah, that's basically what that it like it basically gets you ready for showing cattle, basically,
Okay.
is what kind of yeah.
That's just
But
the
that's
weirdest
where
activity I've fucking ever seen. Cause it's the weird. It's
yeah,
creepy at the same time. It's almost like
yeah.
child, like Children of the Corn type shit. I'm like, dude, what
Dude,
is going on here?
I never got into it, but like I had friends that did and shit, but like I could never I didn't that wasn't really my thing. Like
Yeah.
I mean like yeah, I would rather just sit there and run around like in a small arena with a bull.
Fuck
So I
yeah.
want to backpedal a little bit, just to go back into like when you were in the military. What was your job in the military, and was it that you kind of missed the connection of like the animals? Because I know being in nature and kind of in a more rural setting really does something like healthy for you
Yeah,
mentally.
and especially like working with animals. Like there's just something like I've got quite a few buddies that either I served with or I met like after the fact, but they were also in. And they're like, oh yeah, no, I like worked for like a year or something. I got out, and then I got this like bullshit job, like feeding horses or doing something, with animals. And they're like, and that was what I needed, like as far as like introducing yourself back to like normal society, like that was like I should have done that right when I got out. Like I should have went right into the rodeo the second that I got out of it because it was like therapeutic. Like I could do my own thing. The adrenaline was there, which I missed, and yeah, just working with animals and that I think that's like one of the more. And I guess it all depends on the person, but that was very like therapeutic for me. But yeah, but
So
when I was in, I was a weapons sergeant, but
okay, and
like
and then when you got out, you said you should have went to the rodeo kind of first. What did you do instead of that where you were like, "Oh, that fucked up," and why was it a fuck up?
well, just like any, just like any dumb fucking private, I got married.
Oh
Yeah.
shit.
So yeah, right before I got out, I got married, and that obviously didn't last. But just like most of the marriages. But then I got into and then growing up like doing construction and everything, like a very easy decision for me was like, oh, construction, like duh. And so I think it was a temp. Like I got in on like some bullshit like temp agency, and I started working on these like pretty decent sized like industrial projects and stuff, and, like commercial projects. And like the first project I ever did, the guy that was in charge of the project just took a liking to me, and like I was no shit there just to like sweep the floors. Like at the end of the day, like I was a temp, like yeah. But so the guy that was in charge of the entire project, the superintendent, he took a liking to me and everything, got the bullshit, and blah blah blah. And then like a month or so later, he's like, "Oh yeah, no, I'm out of here. Like I got another job offer at this other construction company." And I was like, "Oh, good for you." And then no shit, the very next day, his replacement was just a fucking dick. I hated the guy, like piece of shit. I like, oh yeah, he like there was like gum on this. Oh, and then like doing what I did in the army, like I like we did some pretty high end shit in the like in the army and everything. And then this guy handed me like a concrete trowel to scrape up the gum off the sidewalk, and I was like, "Yeah, go fuck yourself." Like I'm not scraping. Like that ain't me. Like, but so I ended up quitting that temp agency, and yeah, yeah. But so like a couple of weeks later, the guys that guy that took a liking to me, that old timer, he's like, "Hey, like, how's the project going? How you liking working for like John or whatever the fuck his name was?" I was like, "Oh, dude, I quit. No shit, like 12 hours." He's like, "Oh," and he's like, "So are you looking for a job?" And I was like, "Kind of." And he's like, "Dude, come apply here. I need an assistant." And I was like, "Okay, fuck it." So I applied at this other like pretty decent sized construction company, and as his like assistant or something. And then same deal. I started off as like basically bottom of the totem pole, but I worked my way up from like labor. I became a carpenter, became a foreman, and then I became an assistant superintendent. And then yeah, that was basically this guy was limited on that one too. Because then once I became superintendent, I started getting in on these. They call it like special projects where I was doing like pretty decent things like government projects and stuff like federal buildings, like college campuses, like sporting complexes and shit. And then I basically, whenever a big project that I was on like ended, then I would go to another company. Like that was just kind of what you did. But so I worked my way all the way up to superintendent on those. And then, yeah, at one point I was the second youngest superintendent on the West Coast doing projects as big as I was doing.
Fuck.
Yeah,
Well,
like,
what
and like,
burned you
uh, I don't really know. Like, I got pretty tired of getting home, falling asleep on the couch with my work boots on, waking up and doing it all again. But in the grand scheme of things, like I was like it was kind of weird. Like I found like my like niche. Like I was like, oh, like this, I'm fucking good at this. Like I had at any given time, I had about 60 guys on my crew, like underneath me and everything. Like we were doing huge, like I'm talking like $500 million projects and shit, like no problem. And I was like 20, 24, 25. Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
think the military prepared you for that?
Yeah, oh yeah, 100%. Because it was like, because it's always a weird deal when you have a 50-year-old that's like, oh, I'm not fucking listening to this little shit. Like, I know I've been doing this longer than he's been alive, and it's like, okay, well, if that's the case, why the fuck aren't you in my position? Like, shut the fuck up, get back to work. Like, but it was like that was the thing is, I mean, I was kind of a dickhead like when I got out of the army, but it was like that's I got up to like squad leader and team leader, all that good shit, like when I was in the army. So it was like dealing with people was just kind of like a cakewalk. And then I think that's why the construction industry like appealed to me so like as much as it did is because I mean I could kind of be a dick like and I could be like rough around the edges and like people I wouldn't basically get turned into HR for it if I need like if they did.
Do you think that's kind of like the downfall though? Like, cause I've noticed like a lot of people that have been in a job where they don't feel truly fulfilled because they feel like a cog in the wheel, that it's just like they are so negative and it's like this, oh, like it's not cool to be fucking negative. You're just a
Yeah.
annoying piece of shit that can't stop putting Zin pouches in your mouth.
Hell yeah. Yeah. Hell yeah. That was me for a bit.
Yeah.
He still does. Hell
But
yeah.
that was I think that's where my military experience like kind of came into play because I had a very so like kind of goes back to like my upbringing and everything where I thought it was normal, you know. So joined the army, blah blah blah. I like a quick rundown of my like military career was like I joined the army, while I was at basic, I tried out. So like there was like 400 of us, and I tried out for like airborne school, and they took a couple of us. I ended up getting an airborne contract. So right after basic, I went to airborne school. And then once I had an airborne contract, my first duty station was Italy. And like with the guys over there in the 173. And I mean, I'm biased, but that was and I was in quite a few units when I was in the military. That was one of the best units in the military. But so I think I showed up there on a Thursday. My first deployment was that Sunday. So it's like, it was just boom, 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 boom. Like everything happened so fast. And then like after my first deployment, it was just like, oh yeah, no, that was normal. Like this is normal, blah, blah, blah. And then after a few more deployments, I got some pretty good owies. And I was in a wheelchair for like 9 months.
Oh shit.
So when I was in that wheelchair for like 9 months, I was fucked, like in the head, especially like being on coming from such a high paced, like high tempo, like high op tempo team to literally sitting in a wheelchair. That was the worst part of like transitioning, like that could ever happen. Like, yeah. So I went from basically deploying like a few times a year to sitting in a wheelchair. And I think when I got out, that was an easy transition because I already made the hardest transition, because the hardest part was going from being like high speed, like doing all this crazy shit, to sitting in a wheelchair. So that part was already taken care of by the time I even got out.
So now I believe that like 99% of people on Earth have a low self-image, and that's the problem with everything else in their life. It's just affirming this feeling that they have about themselves being a piece of shit, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm curious, like, when that happened to you, what were some of the thoughts that went through your head, and how did you overcome those like beliefs about yourself?
Dude, that was like, talk about like a dark time in somebody's life. Like, dude, I was 23 years old, 23, 24, somewhere in there. And they literally told me that I'd never walk again. And I'm like, fuck, you know?
Oh shit.
But yeah, dude, that was shitty. But one thing that really got me through that was, I mean, the guys on my team, they were dickheads, but looking back on it, they straight up saved my life, because like they were all like freaks of nature. Like, dude, everybody on my team was roided out. Like they were just freaks, and they loved going to the gym, and I was in a fucking wheelchair, so they'd like kick my door, and they're like, all right, get the fuck up, we're going to the gym. And I'm like, dude, I'm literally in a wheelchair. Like, what the fuck am I gonna do? Roll on the treadmill? But they would take the gym, and right when you walk in the doors of our gym, there was a pull-up bar, and they would no shit take me out of my wheelchair and hang me up on the pull-up bar, and I would just sit there and do pull-ups. And like I'd be like, okay, like my arms are tired, and they're like, okay, like I'm not fucking putting you down, like looks like you're hanging there. But and it's like, looking back on it, I was like at the time I was like, you fucking dickheads. But looking back on it, it was like they knew what was best for me. Like, I didn't need to just be sitting in my room like pouting all day because like my life was over. You know? But they started getting me back into the gym, and then I was talking to these surgeons over in Germany, like some of the best surgeons in the world, and they're like, "Yeah, no, we're not doing that surgery. Like, it's way too risky. You're way too young. Like, yeah, we have too much to risk, or too much to lose, basically." And then I got hooked up with this surgeon in Seattle, and this was while I was over in Italy. And they're like, "Oh yeah, there's this surgeon in Seattle," and I was like Skyping with him and everything, and he's like, basically, I'm paraphrasing, but he's basically like, "Yeah, fuck it, dude. Worst case scenario, you don't walk again." And I was like, "Yeah, like, my man, let's do this." And and that was the other thing is, dude, my leadership took such good care of me. Like, I got very fortunate with my leadership. Like, if I needed anything, they would do it. But like, even to the point where I was in a wheelchair, like I was worthless to the military, you know, and they transferred, or they like PCS'd me to Fort Lewis up in Washington, and then I was that's where I had that surgery. Like I met up with that surgeon, and then he did the surgeries. I think I had like 9 surgeries that year or something, maybe 10.
What'd you
10
break?
Dude, literally everything. Like I'm not even joking. Like damn near everything but my arm.
So was
Uh,
this in a like free fall or something? What happened?
I had a bad jump, and then like other shit, like actual like in like combat related shit. But I had the worst part was I had a bad jump, and I had a parachute collapse on me, and that fucked me up.
Oh
I
shit.
think I broke like 32 bones in one day. It was pretty shitty. Like
Fuck.
Man,
it was. Yeah, I had a couple of pretty good owies, but yeah, like I blew apart my sternum, shoulder, like tore my rotator cuff, broke both femurs, snapped my ankle, compressed my C5,
what
bunch
kind of
of ribs.
physical therapy do they put you through for that? What was your regimen?
So that's where it got interesting. So uh, after they do they fused my C5 and all this shit, like they did like quite a few surgeries, and then I I got to the point where I could wiggle my toes, which was a first, like in months. Like I couldn't even wiggle my toes. Got to the point where I was wiggling my feet and I could feel my feet, and then I got to the point like all this physical therapy and everything. I was going to physical therapy like twice a day for every single like 7 days a week, and I got to the point where I had these like the crutches that you like put your forearms in and everything, and like you can hold yourself up, and I was walking on those, and this was probably at about the like 3 month mark, I think. 3 months after my surgery, all of my surgeries, I was like kind of walking, like I had those crutches, but I was kind of walking on my own. And they're like, "All right, dude, like this is about as good as it gets. Like you're probably not going to get much better than this." And then goes back to the team that I was in. Like they kept taking me to the gym. I kept like started putting me through like their physical therapy. Like there were like a bunch of like 20-year-old guys, but their version of being physical therapists. They put me through it, and like they would drag me out of bed every morning, and I would go work out with them and everything. And I'm like, dudes, you guys are freaks of natures, and I'm a fucking cripple, but they still like took the time to like take me out and work out with me and everything. And then at about the 6 month mark after my surgeries, I had like a little cane, and then go back and they're like, oh, yep, this is about as good as it's gonna get. Like it's not gonna get much better than like this. Like you should be thankful you made it this far. Like being able to walk and shit. And then 9 months after my surgery, I fucking ran a marathon with my whole surgical team.
Oh shit. Let's
Isn't it
go.
funny what
Dude, yeah,
people will fucking be okay with for you? Like,
yeah,
this is the thing about personal development that I want everyone to pay attention to. Other people are okay with you suffering,
yeah,
and it's on you to save yourself. And
yeah,
I want to touch on something and ask you some questions in a moment. But I had this realization that we ask God to get us out of these situations and to lift us up, right?
yeah.
So,
Good. Like it's got to be you.
yeah, hold on. Say your name in your head. Did you
Okay.
do it? Okay. So you just spoke without a mouth and heard without ears, right?
Yeah,
So are you really just this body? No. And if you've ever seen a dead body, no one looks at a dead body and goes, that motherfucker's still in there. No, you know that is a shell of a human being, right? Of a soul. And so when you really are like in a shit situation, you connect with who you really are, the consciousness behind this vehicle of the body. And when
yeah,
you ask God to lift you up, He picks you up, not physically out of the situation, He picks up your spirit above your circumstance to a different perspective on it, and you will drop back into your body because your consciousness is anchored into this body. And I say all that to get into when you were trying to move your toes, did you develop a different conscious connection by realizing it was like this intention? Like, what was that process like of setting the intention to move your toes to like when it connected?
Well, so it was kind of, dude, I don't even know. It was before my surgeries, I straight up couldn't. And then like after my surgeries, like when I could just wiggle my toes, I was like, holy fuck, like I'm gonna be just fine. Like, and then it was like, I mean, yeah, dude, it was just like, I don't know. I talk to my brother about this like every once in a while, but it's like, I mean, it kind of goes in line with the whole God thing, but a little bit inappropriate. But it's like I just had like a voice in my head, like basically just don't be a cunt, like I mean, more or less. It was like no motherfucker, like you're doing this, and yeah, I don't know. It was just a I don't know. It was such like a roller coaster of emotions because it was like, oh, like 23, you'll never walk again. Like your wife's gonna have to wipe your ass for the rest of your life. Like yeah, dude, it was horrible. And then it was like, no, fuck that. Like, and then so, yeah, you're surgical in a marathon with it. I don't know. It was I don't know. It kind of like I guess it kind of happened like so fast. I didn't really have time to sit there and like feel sorry for this. But I
Huh.
think that into play. It was like no motherfucker, you're getting up. Like you're coming to the gym.
Yeah. So it's interesting, and I've been through some stuff that is nowhere near what you're describing, but definitely some like spinal injuries and brain injury stuff that changed my whole understanding of what healthy is.
Yeah.
And um doctors that were unaware of what was happening. Like they did not have answers, but they were okay with the fact of like whatever you get is better than nothing, so that's all right. And that's just not
Yeah.
where I was at cuz I'm like, "No, I'm a fucking stud. I can do this shit." You know what I mean?
Yeah. Which when I first started talking to I wish I could remember his name, but when I first started talking to that surgeon when I was over in Germany and he was in Seattle, like as soon as he's like, yeah, worst case scenario, you don't walk again. And I was like, fuck yeah, like my man, like let's do this. But I don't know. It was just I don't know, it was a weird deal because he wasn't a I went to some of the best surgeons in the world, like at Ramstein Air Force Base over in Germany, like that's the biggest military hospital in the world, like some of the best surgeons. Like and none of those guys wanted to like touch me, like it was too risky. But and then I had that guy, and I had both my hips replaced, both my knees replaced, and he's like, "Oh yeah, like you were hands down the youngest guy I ever did a hip." He's like, he did like 813 hip replacements or something fucking ridiculous like that.
Fuck.
And he's like, oh, yeah, hands down the youngest. And I was like, "Oh well, that's kind of terrifying." But he didn't tell me till afterwards. But but that guy like that guy straight up saved my life. Like, dude, I was in a dark place, like mentally, like I was literally rolling around in a wheelchair, just getting shitty drunk all the time. Like, but between that guy and the guys on my team, it was like, dude, it was like they saved my life. But that's why I think getting out of the military was a cakewalk. Like the transition out of the military was like, oh yeah, fuck, it was easy because I had already done the shitty transition where it's like I went from being high speed to rolling around in a wheelchair. Like I already did the shitty transition.
Yeah, so man, this is awesome. This interview just exploded in my brain. Like, not only were you rad, but this is like my jam right here. So, I want to drop another jewel and then we're going to go back into the interview a little bit. So, one of the things that I recognized is that perspective is the most expensive thing that's free in the world because it
Yeah,
costs you your innocence.
yeah,
You don't
yeah.
even know how fucked up shit can get until you experience it.
And dude, I feel like that's why. Like I'm just a grateful dude. Like I'm grateful about like any little thing that anybody does, and it's like, but I think that it's tough to appreciate the nice days if you've never experienced a shitty. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, how do you like you're not going to appreciate the sunshine if you've never been through a thunderstorm, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And Yeah, and it was clouding up pretty fucking quick there for a bit.
So I have a question about not only like brotherhood, but really human connection and being in a fucked up position where you're handicapped, like actually handicapped by a condition, right? But
Yeah,
someone saw you as whole, right?
yeah.
Um,
like like those guys on my team. Like, so I was like a little bit of background. I was in like the most fucked up misfit platoon like you could imagine. Like, dude, we had guys from like Uganda, we had guys from like Nigeria. My fucking roommate was a boxer from Rochester, New York. We had guys from like Missouri that could barely speak English. Like you needed a fucking translator. Like they were basically Cajun. Dude, we had guys from all over the place. But and I think that's the big thing that the military does. Like, is it surrounds you with people that you would normally never hang out with. Like, not by choice. It's just you're not going to hang out with those kind of guys. I wouldn't be hanging out with a boxer from New York, like being from fucking Duffer, Oregon, you know. But then that like just that like that connection or that bond, like that brotherhood that you guys get from being in shitty situations together. It's like 19, 20 years old, like you guys are in firefights together and it's like, oh fuck, like this guy's going through the same thing I'm going through. Like it was very easy to make that bond. Like guys that I would literally consider as like brothers. And then when you get an owie like I did, they're there for you. Like no ifs, ands, or buts, like no second thought about it. Like they're like, no, we fucking got you.
yeah, and I guess like they didn't see you as different because you were injured. You know,
Yeah,
like they refused to fucking acknowledge your brokenness that you
yeah,
felt.
yeah.
And I think in society, we don't understand that the only cure for pain is more pain until you stop trying to escape it. And like when someone is a shithead to you, even though you're broken, on a certain level, you're like, respect, dog, rather than just.
Dude, that was the thing. Is like, I mean it. Those guys straight up saved my life. Like, and it was like, it wasn't, dude, like the pity or anything. Like nobody fucking felt sorry for me. It was like, and it was weird because they, like you were saying, like they basically didn't see me as broken. It was like, dude, what the fuck you doing? Like, get out of that wheelchair. Like, what the fuck you doing in there? Like, and it was just like, duh. Like, don't be a bitch. And it was like, I don't know. It was, yeah, that saved me. It's like honestly, like those guys, because like some of the best physical therapy therapists in the world, like they couldn't get me to fucking wiggle my toes, and those guys had me doing pull-ups and shit. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
dude, it was,
just that's so fucking gnarly, dude. I love that shit. Like that
yeah,
shit makes me so happy.
yeah,
And I can tell you what's crazier and like in it having to do that for yourself is so fucking it's such a mind fuck, you know?
dude,
It's
being 23 years old, like it was like, dude, because in my mind I was like, oh fuck, this is it. Like the world's over. Like it just came to a screeching halt. Like I was basically like, yeah, like I was doing pretty good for myself and everything, and I was like, yeah, I was doing just fine, and then things just came to a screeching halt. Like, what the fuck am I going to do? And then I look over at my buddies and they're like, get the fuck up. Like, duh. like,
Do
yeah.
something,
Like, what?
motherfucker.
But that was, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
But that was the thing is like, what were my options? Like, be a bitch or like get better. Like,
yeah.
it was like, yeah.
This is where this shit goes next level. You got out of the military and were like, I'm gonna go do rodeo, which is like the most ruggedest, fucked
Dude,
up shit. So how
yeah.
did this light bulb like go from all right, I'm completely broken to I'm better to fuck it, let's do it and see what happens?
that was the thing, is in between that broken and fuck it part, like that's when I did that that's when I did that big like commercial construction and shit. The other saving grace that I had, which kind of a blessing in disguise, was COVID. So as soon as COVID hit, the company that I was working for like just locked its doors. It completely shut down. And I was like, okay, well, what the fuck am I gonna do now? like I have a pretty I thought I was gonna be stuck in that industry. Like I had a very specific, like I was a superintendent on large sporting complexes. Like that's a very like
Niche.
targeted, yeah, like a very specific niche. And I was like, well, what the fuck am I gonna do now? COVID hit, and then dude, I don't know why, but it was just like oh duh, rodeo. Like I don't know why that was my first like oh yeah, all this free time. Oh, I think it probably got like, I mean, looking back at it now, it was like, oh, I have all this free time, I might as well start traveling. And then it's like, how am I going to pay for like my travel? And it's like, oh fuck it, if I go to Texas, I'll just hop in a rodeo there, and then if I want to go to Kentucky, I'll fucking hop in a rodeo there. And it was basically just sky's the limit after that.
So this is almost like a two-parter. One is observation, one's question. So, well, I guess they're both questions. One is, did you feel like, all right, I got this job, I've recovered, I'm making good money, but you still felt unfulfilled?
Kind of. Like, but that, I think where that unfulfillment comes from, being out of like coming out of the military to feeling like unfulfilled, that's where I already, like I was saying, I had already been through that. Like I went from getting deployed like back to back to back to back to back to sitting in a wheelchair. Like I already went through that feeling like a shitbag phase, you know, like that whole like unfulfillment thing, like that already passed. So it's like by the time I was doing that construction, it was like, oh yeah, no, I'm going to be one of the best superintendents like in the fucking country. Like I got this. And then COVID hit, and then I was like, fuck, like I just kind of want that that itch of just doing something fucking stupid. Yeah. And like
So-
just that adrenaline basically, because it's like it's so hard. I mean, I guess it was kind of hard to go from like oh hey, there's literally bullets whizzing by your ear, like that rush, to like oh, sitting at a fucking computer sending off like emails to architects and shit. And it's like, so I guess that I did kind of miss that like that itch of like danger. I don't know, not danger, but like the adrenaline. Yeah. Like, and then once like, dude, the first practice rodeo I went to, and like that fucking bull's like, I could feel his snot on the back of my neck, and I was like, fuck yeah, this is what it is. Like, this is where it's at. Like, if I trip, that thing's literally gonna fucking kill me. Like, I dig this.
It's high level intentionality is what I would think about it as. Like that's a component of a job where it's like I have to be so focused, and there's not as high a stakes. Like what happens if I send this email a little fucked up? Like the world's not gonna like come crumbling down.
Yeah.
But
like,
if
dude,
I misstep with this bull or lean on the wrong side of this berm, I'm fucked.
yeah. And that was the thing, is like, dude, because in the military, you make a mistake, somebody dies, and it's like pretty good chances it might be you. And then I remember I was doing a big project up in like fucking somewhere up in Washington, like outside of Seattle. And dude, like I made the call to like basically when the schedule was and everything. Like I was a superintendent, like it was my project. And I fucked up and I lost like $4 million overnight on a project. Like I made a big fuck up. And the company that I work for, it's like, oh, that sucks. Like we'll make it up. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, dude, like fucked up like that. Like somebody's dying, you know? Like I saw that as a huge fuck up. And then, but I think that was the problem with that was, I guess, like the risk. Like it wasn't there. It was like, oh yeah, you can make a $4 million mistake, and it's just like, oh yeah, just don't suck next time. But like,
this is the string that I want to tie this all together with in terms of identity and fulfillment, right?
Yeah.
Your intuition and who you really are inside is tied to not only that risk factor, But when you were growing up, right,
Yeah.
you knew cowboys are the fucking shit, right? And that's where that unfulfillment is. And I really want to get at this because it's like, that's where I want to. So I've put together my course, High Level Rebirth, because I'm tired of seeing people go through this. I never want people to experience things like me and you have experienced, even though different intensity levels. Fucking gut wrenching process, right? I never want anyone to have to go through that. So like, High Level Rebirth really is about discovering who you are inside. And I feel like we get all this knowledge that's really just doubt in the way. And we have to like get enough reasonable evidence to clear that out. And what's left behind is that inner childhood wisdom of like, I'm a fucking badass. Whatever you said you were and you felt in your fucking heart and soul, that's where you're going to find a fulfillment in your purpose, you know?
Yeah. And but then that goes back to like, you're not going to appreciate things like you're not going to appreciate a sunny day if you've never like been through a thunderstorm. Like, dude, I believe that like to my core. Like, not that every person has to go through that, but that helped me personally. Like, that's what I went through, and that helped me.
It's that rock bottom gives you a moment of re-identification because you have a decision to make.
Yeah.
Where you go, you hit rock bottom and you go, whoa, I am not a cripple. Well, what does healthy look like, right?
Yeah.
You redefine it in your mind with a goal, and your subconscious will literally drive you to achieving that goal.
Yeah,
And
exactly. Evidently,
sorry, go
my
for it.
my idea of like healthy and not a cripple was running from bulls. Like, that was a very easy. It was, I mean, it was a no-brainer for me. But the other thing is like when I got out, I was still a little banged up and everything. But so I physically couldn't have done the rodeo. But so when I did that construction and everything, it basically like I kept going to the gym and like gotten better and better and better shape and everything. And then when I finally did the rodeo, I was 100%. Like, well, what I thought was 100%. Like my new version of 100%.
Exactly. And that's the crazy thing is like on the other side of that lowest point in your life where you re-identify yourself and you make that decision, from that point on, your experience can go from stoked to more stoked, right?
Yeah.
You're pretty stoked that you nailed a good job and you had the ability, but like in your head, you're like, I'm still a stud. I'm not dropping all this other shit. And I believe that's how like God graduates us from a situation. It's like
Yeah.
you prepare while you're in it, and then all of a sudden something will happen that kicks you the fuck out of where you thought you could stay.
And the
And
other
then
thing,
yeah.
like staying right between the ears, like it's very easy to fall back into like, oh, like fuck, like it's over. Because I remember one time, because I was doing these rodeos like all over the country. Like I was coming back and forth to Oregon and everything. And I remember one time I came back and, like I was saying, we were dirt poor growing up. Like, and my mom loves horses, basically. So I came back to Oregon one time, and my my mom had never been out of Oregon, really. Like she'd been to Washington and like parts of Northern California, but other than that, she'd never been out of Oregon. And I came back and I was like, fuck it. I got a rodeo in Texas in 2 days. Like, let's go. Came back, I picked up my mom, and I took her to a bunch of rodeos and everything. And then I surprised her with VIP tickets to the Kentucky Derby. Because like that was on the list. Yeah, that was pretty cool. But my mom was the fucking worst about it, dude. Like, because when I was doing the rodeos by myself, like it was just my dog on me, you know? Like if I got fucked up, like it was on me. I don't even know what I would have done if I got fucked up. But one of the first rodeos that my mom ever went to after all my surgeries and everything. So it's going for fucking hours. Like, and it was probably like one of like the second to last bull that they rode. The guy gets bucked off. I like jump in there and everything, and I'm like running it around, and I don't know what happens, but like I like stutter step or something, but this bull just crashes right into my hip, and I have a titanium hip, and dude, like I had like 17 staples in my pelvis and shit. Like I had 2 fake hips, like fucked me up. But so this bull just crashes, like this 2,000-pound bull crashes right into my hip, and I remember I was laying there, and I was like looking through the fucking gate at my mom's face, and she was just like, "Oh fuck," and then like seeing her face, like, "Oh fuck," I was like, "Oh fuck," and I was like, I'm never walking again. Like I'm fucked. I just fucked up bad. And I remember laying there and like I kind of started like wiggling my legs, just kind of taking it easy. And then I was like, I think I got this. And I like stood up and everything, and I'm like walking around, and I was like, I am fucking invincible. Like I'm good to go. Dude, like yeah.
Yes.
That was the first thought. I was like, I will literally never get hurt ever again. Like it's a little bit tougher to fuck up titanium than it is calcium. So yeah, as soon as I got up, I was like, oh fuck yeah, like I'm good. Yeah.
That's some badass Wolverine shit. But I just
Dude,
want to say, like, that experience that you just described of laying there for a second and kind of like
yeah.
feeling around and like just wiggling. I had that experience after doing DMT because it was like my whole consciousness left my body. And
Yeah.
in one definitive breath, it was like, I was
Huh.
like back in my shit, but I was like laying on the bed. And I remember for a brief moment, I had a similar feeling of like, how do I, like, okay. And I kind of
Yeah.
shimmied a little bit, and I was like, oh, that's how I do this thing. And I was like, oh, I feel fine. Oh, I
Yeah.
got this. And I sat up, and I was
Yeah.
curious, like, is that a similar connection to like what it was like for you when you were trying to move your toes?
It was exactly like, dude, like it was basically I was like, oh fuck, I'm going through all of this again. Like, dude, it was like, but instead of it lasting years, it was a split second. Yeah.
It's
It was
it's crazy.
yeah. I went through that whole process in my head in a split second. And then I get back up and I'm like, dude, I am literally invincible. Like, this is fucking awesome. Yeah.
It's so much better, but like it made me look at like because I have a little daughter, and like it made me look at the whole process of like learning how to control your body and walk in such a more fascinating way after having experienced all of that.
Yeah. Dude, because that was the thing is I literally had to learn how to walk. Like I had to learn how to walk again at 23 years old. Like it was or 20. But then yeah, that like the first out like quote unquote owie that I got rodeoing, and I was like, oh fuck, I got this. Like that was nothing. Like I was like I remember thinking like when that bull finally ran out of the arena, I was like, you fucking pussy. Like yeah, like I remember thinking that. I was like, I got this. And then then we finished out the road trip and everything, went to the Kentucky Derby. Like, dude, it was a fucking blast. But then I remember I talked my brother into coming to one, and he's like, yeah, dude, that shit looks intense. Like, and it was just some stupid little practice, like nothing on the line. Like, I don't even think I was getting paid for it. I might have been paid for it like a couple $100, but like there wasn't a whole lot of money on the line or anything. And I remember I have a video of it, and it was so fucking stupid. But I have this bull like running at me, and he's like, I'm like kind of like arched over his like his forehead, and he's lifting his head up, and he's like picking my feet up off the ground, and I'm just backpedaling, just kind of fucking. And I get to the edge of the arena, and I just kind of like shove his head off to the side, and he runs over there, and I'm still backpedaling, and I trip on my foot, put my hand down, and snap my wrist, and I was like, you would have to be shitting me, dude. Like, dude, no shit. Like 20 minutes ago, I had a bull just step on the back of my neck, and I'm fine. And that I just broke my fucking arm, like pedaling. Like, yeah, yeah. Out of
Dude.
out of all like the rodeoing it, because I rodeoed for a couple of years, and like when I finally got back into it, and out of all that, that was the only bone that I broke. Like, yeah. No, but like, dude, I got my neck stepped on, like I got gored in the rib cage and shit, like, but it was just like, oh yeah, no, that's but I also
Did
think that helped me between like growing up like and my time in the military, my time rodeoing it, it was like, yeah, fuck it, this is what we're doing. Like, let's fucking do it. But yeah, that was the only act about rodeoing.
One life to live, baby. This has been a hell of an episode. I don't know that we're going to really be able to close it out too much better than this. I want to say thank you for sure.
For
Like,
real.
you have an incredible story.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that you came on as a guest. And thank you for your service.
Yeah,
Thank you for sharing your story, bro. Like, yeah.
Dude, yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. That's awesome. I appreciate it.
Yeah, dude, it was fun. There's some stories in there that I haven't heard yet. So
Dude, but basically, like, comes down to like there was never a dull moment, and it's like, fuck it, let's do it. Like, yeah.
Put it on a t-shirt. Fuck it, let's do it.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, have a great rest of your night, dude. And sorry, it cut out. Give us that and we'll close it.
I was saying, like, thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, for real.
You're
dude.
welcome
Thank you.
anytime, bro. You're a true happy hoodlum if there ever was one, son.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too, brother.
Peace.